Hello dear viewers, and thank you for remaining faithful to our programs and to this show dedicated to football on Africanews. This is of course Football Planet. Here are the headlines for the program. In summary, an appointment that has divided the nation, Antonio Conceiçao as head coach of the Indomitable Lions. Far from being unanimous, the arrival of the Portuguese is not welcomed by many Cameroonians. You'll know why later. CHAN 2020 qualifiers, barely favorites and outsiders without any complexes in a splashing weekend. Many surprises during the first leg of the last round of qualifying matches, the results of which are to be found in this show. And then we will take you on the trail of Barca's newest nugget, Ansu Fati. From the streets of Bissau to Barcelona, the fate of the new sensation of Spanish La Liga looks very much like a fairy tale. Welcome to Football Planet. But what are Cameroonian football officials playing with? Many Cameroonians have been asking themselves this question since the announcement of Antonio Conceiçao's appointments as coach of the Indomitable Lions. And there's nothing bad about it when you look at the profile of the Portuguese. The story by William Bahia and Claudia Ansono.
Some Cameroonian football pundits are still to come to terms with the appointment of Antonio Conceiçao as the head coach of the Indomitable Lions. They regret that local talents whom they consider better equipped for the job were discarded in preference of a foreigner whom they say is not experienced enough to rule the Lions' den. Their rage followed Sports Minister Sylvain Kwambi's announcement of the former Portuguese footballer as a replacement for Dutch manager Clarence Seedorf, who was sacked after a premature ousting of his squad at the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations tournament. But just how legitimate are their claims? Antonio Conceiçao has managed 14 clubs across 4 countries throughout his 20-year career. He won 2 championships and a Romanian Super Cup while managing FC Cluj. The right-back spent his 11-year playing career in Portugal, playing for Braga, Vizela, Rio Pelé and Porto. 57-year-old Tony will be assisted by former Cameroon international Francois Omambik, who played at 3 World Cups and helped the Indomitable Lions win the 1988 Africa Cup of Nations. They will be tasked with leading the Lions at the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations on home soil, as well as to secure the 5-time African champions qualification for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar.
And it is indeed a new shock with its share of questions. And we have our colleague, Sylvain Kwambi, who is joining us from Douala. Welcome, Sylvain. First of all, what do you think of this appointment, which has a lot of concerns?
I think a lot has been said with divergent opinions as far as this situation is concerned. We realize that the announcement by the Minister of Sports and Physical Education practically caught everyone off guard with regards to the names that were mentioned here and there as potential coaches for the Indomitable Lions. We can mention the case of the Uruguayan Gustavo Poyet or Patrick Mboma. It is true that in the letter, the minister talked about the designation, but it is also an appointment of Antonio Conceiçao as the new coach of the Indomitable Lions. It is still a kind of surprise from the minister. He really doesn't have the caliber and experience as many would have liked for him to have, better than a local coach or a Cameroonian coach, to simply put it. So it is an illustrious, virtually unknown person who has been appointed the head of the Indomitable Lions. Now it's a question of seeing how things go.
But how do you explain this choice among, say, more famous candidates?
In the general opinion here in Cameroon, there was much more support for the appointment of a Cameroonian. And that is why when Patrick Mboma made his intention known on Canal Plus, it was almost a unanimous support for him. Until the day before this appointment, many people were still going for Patrick Mboma. He even received a lot of support. So you understand that it was much more the expectation to appoint a Cameroonian coach. And surely that's why they wanted to see a popular reaction from Cameroonians when they hyped the situation by talking about Gustavo Poyet, who was much more heralded than Mboma. The Uruguayan was being announced as expected in Cameroon to sign a contract the day before the minister finally shocked everyone by appointing Antonio Conceiçao as the new head coach.
The coach's appointment is criticized, but wouldn't it be more appropriate to judge him on the results rather than his past?
Yes, it is true that when you are appointed head coach, the coach has to get to work. But you know that in all major nations, initially the profile of the coach has to be aligned with the short, medium, and long-term objectives that is desired. And from that, we can make a sketch of who might be the next coach. Then we start looking for those who respect the profile, as it was the case in 2018. Unfortunately, we did not know much about who campaigned for the choice of this new coach because there was no real call for tenders at the beginning. Now, like you clearly said, we are going to judge the engineer by the foundation of the house, and the stakes are really high. You know that on the initial level, there is a qualification for the World Cup and then the AFCON 2021 at home. These are unforgettable challenges that will certainly be part of the specifications of this coach, and we hope we will also assign him a long-term mission to really rethink, if we must put it that way. We will see how he will behave, especially with his two assistants, Francois Omambig and Jacques Songo, who are two former Cameroonian internationals who have a good command of the Cameroonian football environment. So I think he would benefit from relying on these two leading figures in Cameroonian football to try to succeed in his mission.
Thank you very much, Sylvain Kwambi.
Thank you.
We will undoubtedly come back to this controversy, which comes a few months before the African Nations Championship, CHAN, which will be hosted by Cameroon. And this weekend, the first leg of the last round of playoffs were played. And what a surprise, as shown in the table of complete results in the first leg matches. Now let's talk about African Club Cups, the Champions League first, and these giants in danger before the final match in view of the pools next weekend. This is particularly the case of two-time reigning champions, Esperance of Tunis, who are forced to put all the stops to avoid a shock elimination from the competition. An attractive pairing. This will also be the case in the CAF Confederations Cup, where the suspense remains high. The teams will have to fight to get their tickets for the group stage. Here are the fixtures. At the bottom in brackets, the full results of the first leg. See you next weekend, which promises to be very exciting. This is the feeling of this early season in Spain, and he's a native of Guinea-Bissau. Ansu Fati is living a dream come true with FC Barcelona. At 16 years of age, the native of Bissau, who has just been a naturalized Spanish, has broken all records for early childhood. But behind this genius lies a fabulous story. Ansu Fati, from the streets of Bissau to Camp Nou, the full story by Erika Josia and Philemon Mbale.
A telling tale from the red grounds of the suburb of Bissau in Guinea to the flashing light and green turf at one of Europe's largest football centers, the Nou Camp. The name Ansu Fati is the most talked about in Spain and Europe. At 16 years, the player becomes the youngest to play the UEFA Champions League for Barcelona. He is also the youngest La Liga scorer for the team. He played with boys older than him because playing with children of his age was too easy, so he always looked for bigger challenges. He was very spontaneous, he was very cheerful. He had no problems of integration of any kind because he is a child, as the saying goes, of the street, who is very accustomed to this. Fati moved to Spain aged 6, and his family back home still have fresh memories. He called me Dad, and he went straight to my room to get food. He loved bread and butter very much. That's what he loved most. Every time he came back from football, he would ask for bread. I kept money for him all the time, 125 francs. He remembers that. Young, quick and technical, this African jewel is clearly the next big thing in the horizon, as he has been deputizing for Lionel Messi while the Barcelona's captain was injured.
It is on this Ansu Fati fairy tale story that will bring you an end to today's football planning program, which could be found on our website www.africanews.com. See you next week for another exciting football planning show. Have a good week.